traditional German pronunciation.
Or Hexennacht.
Or Hexennight of it all.
Yes. First and foremost, what I love about this is that's the halfway point of Halloween.
Yes.
Of Samhain. And it's basically Samhain in the summer.
Exactly.
It's Halloween
100%
in the summer.
it is.
Like, it's literally Halloween in the springtime. I fucking love it.
I love it so much. And especially being a spooky witch who's also an April baby. Like, I just really feel like this is my time to shine.
It really is. It really is. Hey witches, blessed new moon in Taurus, and happy Walpurgisnacht or Hexennacht.
Whichever you prefer to say.
Yes. Welcome to another special. If you are joining us again, welcome back. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome to our corner of the circle. Where
we are two homos, one chalice, and it is a spellbinding good time.
Hell yeah, it is.
Either way, we are just thrilled to see your beautiful shiny faces.
If you like what you see, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Spread the word about this little hashtag baneful and blessed coven that we're making here in our little corner of the circle. So we have a fun show packed. We could have done Beltane. Obviously, we've been kind of following the wheel of the year with all of our holiday specials. But everyone's doing Beltane. Everybody talks about Beltane. You want to know about Beltane? Watch The Wicker Man, like the original, not the Nicolas Cage one. Although I have a love-hate with that one because I mean the acting is horrendous, and like the Sister Rosemary and Sister Juniper, like the original Wicker Man was very much like we're a dualistic society of pagans, and in this it's like women run everything and the men have their tongues cut out and like so they can't speak and then it was like very much just about the goddess and the bees and the honey. The reason I have a love-hate with it is because it takes place in Washington. And it was filmed in Washington.
I honestly haven't seen it in so many years.
Yeah, on one of our beautiful islands. Just like even though Practical Magic was set on the East Coast, it was filmed here. Yeah. And so like there's something about being a Washingtonian witch, and especially when you're seeing our state, when it's like in the side of the state anyways, on the west coast side of the mountains, when it's at its most beautiful in the spring and summer, when it's just lush and gorgeous and perfumed with flowers everywhere and bees buzzing and all the beautiful things. And it makes me feel very witchy when all that happens. And I want to go frolic with the fae. Yeah. I mean, not all of the fae, as we know, some of them will fucking murder you.
It's true.
But
the non-murdery
fae. And you know, gather herbs and flowers for spells and do stuff outside. And so I have that feeling where I love that movie because of it. But like I said, the rest is just terrible acting. It's like...
Although sometimes, I don't know, maybe I'm weird for this, but I think a good, nice bout of terrible acting can sometimes be a little comforting.
It can. It's humorous and predictable. I will also say I have this weird love-hate for Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
Not even a love-hate. Like, I'll just admit it. I can't stand almost anything he does. I can't. I usually if he's in a movie, I won't, like, I just won't
watch it.
I don't even watch it. Like, I can't stand him normally. That being said, he does have individual films that I really like, that his acting style and how that is suited so perfectly that it works. Like, it's like Keanu Reeves.
Yes. Like, I feel that way about McKidge in Moonstruck. I freaking love Moonstruck. I talked about it on the last episode. I probably will never stop talking about how much I love it. But I really feel like, A, his style of acting, but B, like, who the character is just really worked for him. Versus, I don't really like most of his other roles. Because it doesn't always work. But that role specifically, I'm here for it.
Yeah. So
I'm in love with you.
Snap out of it!
So, and anyway, that being back to the main topic. But you want to watch Beltane stuff, watch the original 1974 Wicker Man with Christopher Lee. And it's just, it's perfect. The music is great. It's a weird fucking musical. If you've never seen it, you're in for a weird folk horror treat.
Even these people can't be that mad. Morrison.
If Rowan Morrison existed, we would know.
I suspect not.
She was back.
You are the fool, Mr. Howard.
Where is Rowan Morrison?
Oh my God!
But that being said, there's so many things on Beltane. And I'm sure we'll get to it next year for next Beltane. But we thought maybe we would do something different, so we wanted to touch on the night before, May Eve, also known as Walpurgisnacht or Hexennacht.
Yes.
So we're going to get into that. We have SpellCraft, where we're going to be making magical candles.
I'm so excited.
Yes, so different colors. We're going to be doing the whole shebang.
Intentions,
yes,
all of that fun.
amazing funness. Delicious Witch, where we're going to be making Hexensuppe, which is soup, and it's traditionally made on Walpurgis or Hexennight. And then our Witchy Media review is
the craft.
The craft.
A big part of which also takes place on Walpurgisnacht.
Yeah, specifically the invocation scene, the most pivotal, plot-defining, changing moment in the film takes place on Witch's Night. So we thought it would be an appropriate film to do that. So
Girls, watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
And yeah, so let's just jump right into it with witchcraft in the news.
Exactly.
First and foremost, researchers in England have shed more light on 140 mostly corgi-like canine bones that were found at a Nescott College archaeological site, which they have now discovered are believed to have been sacrifices, specifically to Pluto, who was the Roman god of the underworld, and to Hecate.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Not surprising.
A queen with her corgis, Elizabeth could relate.
Yeah. Now, as we talked about before, we know in the ancient world, animal sacrifices of all various kinds, and even human sacrifices took place. Like, this is, we just know this. We're not going to try to revisionist history. Like, we know this happened.
That's for the Christians. We don't do that.
Yeah. But we also know that our gods are living, sentient, sovereign beings. Our deities are spirits, are all these things. And just like us, they evolve over time. Once our society really changed to where dogs, cats, all that became pretty much always just domesticated creatures and no longer, like we know like in certain temples like in Egypt there were domesticated cats and stuff, and domesticated dogs in certain purposes, but for the most part, in the ancient and classical world, like they were just any other animal. So we know that black dogs were sacrificed to Hades/Pluto and Hecate, or Diana Hecate, because Hecate never really, she just shows up everywhere, in England, in Italy, in Greece, in Scandinavia, in fucking Russia as Baba Yaga. Like she just shows up everywhere. And she never really has an equivalent, so they just kind of either use her name or they sink her. Yeah. So the Romans just were like, oh, we have like Hecate Kibble, but what do we associate Hecate as a knight with? And Hecate of underworld and witchcraft. Oh, Diana of the moon. So like you get Diana Hecate, Hecate Diana. So of course Romans conquering England brought their things with them. So of course temples to Pluto and Hecate, Diana Hecate would be there. But I just think that that's really cool because it just is like, oh, here's another place that she's found. She just like appears, and as a Hecatean witch, I just love that. I mean, I love when any deity is found anywhere, like in other places, because especially when they're like super fucking old, like even predates more than what we thought. Because again, it just to me continues to prove that despite what scholars blanketly will say or Christians will blanketly say, paganism was never stamped out. It was never conquered. It was never destroyed and then revived. It just was and kept going and adapting because our deities, our spirits, are living, sentient, and can change an outfit just like we can. So yeah.
Anyways, so next up was that various folklore associations across Czechia took place in a traditional ritual called Banishing the Marana. And this took place on April 6th in the city of Tok. I'm probably mispronouncing that.
Sorry.
So if you are Czech, I am sorry. I am not. So there was a 2-meter high figurine for the death goddess cast into a pond via a costumed procession. This is an ancient Slavic ritual signifying the end of winter and the arrival of spring. And it is very old, as I said, and also continues to be observed in various locations throughout the country to this day. So I thought that was really cool.
That is really cool. And see, there's another hitting your peacock. It never went away. These things never go away. Like the majority of society in the world became Christianized. Yes, of course. But there were places that just never either took or it never reached and are still, or it did and they just synchronized and did, but not even synchronized, where they just literally just did both. Like, we're gonna do Christian shit and we're still gonna do our pagan shit. Like, we're just gonna have our cake and eat it too. And like, that's like us doing Yule and Christmas.
Like, I was just about to say that.
It's like, or still doing Ostara, Eostre and Easter. Although now, as we talked about, fuck Easter, I'm literally going to celebrate Eostre this month. And I'm going to start doing it every Easter Sunday. I'm going to celebrate Eostre instead.
I'm sure my children will wake up to Eostre baskets every year.
Yes. So, like, It's, yeah, those things, it's just like in Greece where it's like they still do the Poseidon with the boats every year, and they've never stopped,
No,
where they give
never.
offerings to the sea, control of the seas,
Oh, that's
yes,
so
and
cool, I
to
didn't
bring
know
fish,
that.
yes. But, so it was offerings to her and to Poseidon that would be thrown in the sea, and they still do this ceremony every year in Greece, and they've never stopped, like,
that's really cool.
and I just think that, like, anytime we get more discoveries and learn about these things in the news, about these pagan traditions that still go on and still happen, just another fucking, feather in our conical hat.
Exactly. I love that.
Let's see. The International, this is a good one. The International Association of Exorcists has condemned a witches festival in Benevento, which is a town outside of Naples in Italy. This town is famous for witches. The 3-day event was held last month, complete with face painting, and the mayor Clemente Mostrella, is planning a witches theme park in the town.
Oh my god.
Right?
That's amazing. I love that.
So Benevento's ties to witchcraft run deep. In the 7th century, Germanic invaders held pagan rites around a sacred walnut tree. And even further back, there was local worship of Hecate Diana, or Diana Hecate. The modern name for witch in Benevento is Gennara, which may actually, it seems, etymologically derive from Diana.
Oh.
So throughout the centuries, witches were rumored to feast and hold orgies with spirits, not devils, spirits, around those sacred walnut tree. The local football club, the Benevento Calcio, uses a witch on a broomstick as its logo. This is like literally like Salem, Massachusetts, in Italy.
That is amazing.
Like, because this is like literally everything you go to Salem, and
Yeah.
it's the fucking sheriff's department, the city crest is a witch, like everywhere you look, the schools, like
That's so cool.
so. But the International Association of Exorcists, which is a body officially recognized by the Vatican, thinks that this is too far and is cursing the citizens and the town, and is promoting the occult. The mayor, on the other hand, for their part, is literally just trying to boost the economy of the town and cash in on its fun, unique, rich history. Literally taking a cue from Salem,
Yes.
from New Orleans. Like, I believe even in the article they said that was like they were taking cues from other places around the world. Like, what is it? In Pendleton, England,
Oh, yeah,
it's very much a witch town and everyone celebrates in Cornwall. Like, there's, there are places in Europe and here that are built and celebrate that. And that's all that they're trying to do is like bring more light to their rich, deep history. And I love this. I want to go, another thing, as a Hecatean witch, I'm like, not only do I want to go just for the witch version of it, but I want to go to this walnut tree.
Right.
Like, because it's still there. Like, so I want to go to this walnut tree and leave an offering and worship Hecate as Diana Hecate. Like, I think that's amazing.
That is amazing.
I think the
love that.
International Association of Exorcists can suck it.
Exactly. So along that same kind of vein, so 48 people in Iraq were arrested amid a crackdown on witchcraft.
Oh, God.
Yeah. This has been a 2-week operation orchestrated by the Supreme Judicial Council, who say that these people pose a direct threat to social peace, ethical values, and the rule of law. Which,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Is terrifying in itself.
No, that's horrific.
Yeah. So all of these 48 people were from Baghdad and the surrounding areas.
Okay.
The charges include practicing sorcery while claiming to offer spiritual healing or solutions to family problems, exploiting people's belief in magic for financial gain. So.
Like, that's fucked up. First and foremost, witchcraft is hard work. And if you are, if you're going to do stuff, bitch, you better pay me in something.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, if I'm offering my witchy services, now, granted, I'll just take some pot
Right.
or some fucking a bottle of booze as payment,
Right.
the dinner out, like, take me to dinner, take me to lunch, But, like, there better be some compensation in some form or another.
Exactly.
For the fucking work. Plus, if you have to buy certain ingredients for certain spells or whatever that are not easy to come by, or maybe you don't have to buy them, but you have to go somewhere kind of dangerous out in nature or something
Right.
to gather said
them,
ingredients.
yeah.
Like, work goes into it. And I'm
Right.
sorry, but there's nothing wrong with, as a witch, charging for your stuff. That's literally what we've done for thousands of years.
Exactly. And what other...
Before we were called witches, we were just
Right.
called sorcerers
Right.
and sorceresses.
But if you think about it, like, what other practitioner could be expected to perform services and not receive payment for them? Like, you pay your doctor.
Right.
You pay your massage therapist.
Yes.
This is not expected of anyone else.
No.
But we have to give it away for free and risk bodily harm.
Right. And that's the thing is it's just like, so it's using that con artist fucking clause.
Right.
But I want to go back to the actual first
Yes.
meat language of this law,
Yes.
which is that they say that it's practicing sorcery under the guise of healing and offering healing. So they can say, oh, it's a money thing.
Right.
But that's actually telling you right there what it's actually about.
Yes.
They're like, the issue is you're practicing sorcery.
Right.
You're doing witchcraft and saying that you're healing, but in our eyes, doing witchcraft is not that.
Right.
Like, that's really what it is. The financial part of the, like, and this is conning people out of their money. No. No. And that's not what's going on. People need to be paid for their services. That is the excuse to try to justify any possible and tamp down any possible pushback from the civilians. By then you'd be like, look, whatever, even if you don't agree on like a religious point of view, they're conning people out of money. So we gotta punish it. That's what that's all about.
Exactly. So if convicted, these people could face up to 5 years in prison.
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
In fucking Iraq?
Yes. And this goes hand in hand with similar arrests that have taken place over the past year throughout the Middle East and Central Asia. Both Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan have taken an aim at witches in the past.
Yeah, we covered that.
Yeah.
A few episodes back in the news when it was announced that Tajikistan had like increased not only their witch hunts but increased the punishments. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like it really just goes into like what's going on in America is not an isolated incident.
No.
This is happening all throughout the globe.
Yeah. The Abrahamics are coming for witches.
Exactly. It's just a very common theme that we're seeing across the world right now.
Yeah.
Anywho.
So scientists. Why did I say that like I just like hit puberty?
Because you did.
Because I did. My balls dropped.
Just now. Y'all
finally.
on camera.
40 years old and my balls finally dropped. Okay. Let's see. So scientists have found, we'll try that again. Scientists have found a 12,000-year-old monument at Göbekli Tepe, which, for those of you who don't know, this is in Turkey. This is literally the cradle of civilization. This is literally the first village, the first worship site, the first place where humans congregated. It was not in Africa, it was not in Iraq, like it was not in Iran, the Middle East. Literally, it was in Turkey, in southern Turkey, at this place called Göbekli Tepe. And this is literally the start of civilization. Religion, church, everything happened here. And so they found at Göbekli Tepe a 12,000-year-old monument in southern Turkey that has turned out to be a calendar filled with intricately carved symbols which indicate a solar calendar, which accurately charts the days, the seasons, and the years. There are these symbols which add up to 365, so they're pretty sure that these mark the days. Mm-hmm. Now, the summer solstice, along with others, so like the winter solstice and the equinoxes, for example, these were marked by a V worn around the neck of a bird-like beast. So this bird-like beast, and the V symbolizes summer. Okay. The carvings also tracks the cycles of the moon and the sun, which predate other calendar finds of this type by many millennia. And I'm about to give you an example. So the researchers believe the temple carvings shown at Göbekli Tepe were recordings which dates precisely, and noting how the movement across the sky differed based on the time of year. So basically this recording dates the precise movement of the constellations and the stars over the course of the year. This would be 10,000 years before Hipparchus. Yes, Hipparchus. Of ancient Greece, so not even classical Greece, ancient Greece. 10,000 years before Hipparchus in ancient Greece documented the wobble in the Earth's axis, which was in 150 BC.
Wow.
So this calendar predates ancient Greece by 10,000 years. And this was the first church was built there, the first everything, the first town. This is where people first came together. And the crazy thing about Göbekli Tepe is the first thing they all built was a temple. Not homes, the first thing they built was a standing stone temple with their different deities. That's how far back things go. But it also is just an idea of like how ancient the world really is when you think about that. We always think about ancient Greece. We think about classical Greece as being ancient. Yeah. Then we remember that there was ancient Greece, which by the time you got to classical Greece with Homer and all that, ancient Greece was already history. Exactly. Gone, long gone. The Minotaur, Menitis, long wiped out and gone before classical Greece happened. But when there was ancient Greece, Göbekli Tepe was 10,000 years before that. Like,
wow, that is really mind-blowing when you actually think about the scale of how old the Earth is and how long it has been turning.
Yes,
you know?
And how long the goddess has existed and has never went away.
Exactly.
And then you go, what's crazy too though, is then you think about how Christians are literally like, the Earth is 6,500 years old. Right. And man walked with dinosaurs. So, man. Anyway, just thought that was fucking cool as fuck.
That is cool as fuck. Okay, so another thing that is cool as fuck is, near the Giza pyramids is going to be opening this summer the Grand Egyptian Museum, or the GEM for short, which I personally love.
I love that, the GEM.
I want to go to the GEM. Anyway, so they are opening on July 3rd of this year. It's going to feature 100,000 artifacts, including a huge tall statue of Ramesses II. And there's going to be treasures of Tutankhamun in the museum.
I want to go.
I know. So interestingly enough, plans for this museum first were announced in 2002. So this has been ongoing for so many years now. So obviously they faced delays due to the political and economic instability of the times, as well as later on the pandemic.
Right.
So they're finally opening. It's going to be dedicated to all things related to pharaonic civilization, which is just so cool. And the really interesting part about all of this for me is that it will span over 129 acres. Which, which is twice the size of both the Louvre and the Met.
I mean, you would need like a whole week to get through it.
I know, and 2.5 times the size of the British Museum. Like, can you just like wrap your head around that?
That is amazing.
Like, that is so crazy.
A museum like that huge in Egypt.
I know.
Like, and that's the thing. It's like, if you wanted to see shit like this, you had to go to the British Museum or to the Met, and or to the Louvre, and go to their artifacts that they just happen to have, and not because of colonialism and thievery.
Right.
But to actually like have, and not only for it to surpass all of the colonial museums that have stolen their shit and have it on display, and like they got it fair. Like, that is amazing.
And these objects are in their home, which I love.
So they collect that ancestral power. They're just imbued with that shit. Is that what the moving of the pharaoh related to this?
I think so. Yeah.
A beautiful ceremony that happened in like 2021 or whatever it was.
I would not be surprised if it was. But what's interesting is a lot of these artifacts actually reflect daily life in ancient Egypt. Such as like tools for hunting and farming, like makeup containers. So you can really go through and just envision the lives of these people as they were using these things.
I love that. I love that.
Cool.
I love that.
And the opening, which is interesting, is going to come with a lot of international fanfare. So like lots of rulers, presidents from across the globe have been invited to the opening, including King Felipe VI of Spain, as well as Trump. He also received an invite. We'll see if that happens.
God.
I don't know. But it's all to the effect that Egypt is seeking to reassert its status as a global leader in archaeology, in heritage preservation, in research, and in the study of ancient spirituality through the gem. So I love it. I'm so excited.
Love. I hope one day to see that shit.
Me too. I'm gonna be a gem at the gem.
I want to be a gem at the gem, wearing my gems.
Exactly.
At the gem. While looking at pagan historic gems.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
And that was our witchcraft in the news.
Yes.
And in a moment, we'll be right back with Walpurgisnight.
All right. So it has finally come time to get into the Walpurgisnacht, or Walpurgisnacht, if you prefer the traditional German pronunciation.
Or Hexennacht.
Or Hexennight of it all.
Yes. First and foremost, what I love about this is that it's the halfway point of Halloween.
Yes.
Or Samhain. And it's basically Samhain in the summer.
Exactly.
It's Halloween
100%
in the summer.
It is.
Like, it's literally Halloween in the springtime. I fucking love it.
I love it so much. And especially being a spooky witch who's also an April baby. Like, I just really feel like this is my time to shine.
It really is. It really is. Just like I was born during the celebration of Hecate as Maiden Mother Crone in August, you were born in the month of the witch.
Exactly.
So, like, magic. Like, love it.
Exactly. So, first we'll get into the pop culture examples that we all typically know Walpurgisnacht from. The first one being, of course, the play Faust by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. I'm sure I am mispronouncing that. I'm so sorry. Obviously, very, very well-known body of literature wherein Mephistopheles the devil takes Faust to a Walpurgisnacht celebration. Later, that same author also wrote a poem entitled Die Erste Walpurgisnacht, which is the first Walpurgisnacht, and it told the story of that, which is very interesting. Walpurgisnacht actually also came up in the work of Bram Stoker, who obviously, of course, famously wrote Dracula. He also wrote a separate novel that was entitled to be like that was intended to be a companion piece to Dracula. And that was called Dracula's Guest.
Oh, the original first chapter. Yes, the original first chapter of, I'm like, let me come in as a vampire fucking geek. Yes, it was the first chapter of Dracula, which he removed because he was like, I don't need a fucking prologue.
Right. That's fair. Okay, so this is called Dracula's Guest, and he got into kind of the Walpurgisnacht lore. Because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dracula nerd, but I believe it was around that time of year when this chapter took place.
Correct. Yes. So, it takes place about a month before Jonathan Harker gets there. Jonathan Harker, we know, shows up in like May for like St. George's Day, and that's another fucking the witches are out, don't go out. This takes place like the month before.
Okay, so it would be like around that same time.
Correct, with Walpurgis. Yeah,
Gotcha.
So you're looking like a month before St. George's Eve or whatever in May when Harker shows up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Dracula's like preparing for his
Yeah, he's Dracula. What I do think is interesting, and that I wish they kind of had.
I haven't read the chapter, so excuse my ignorance.
No, that's fine. Most people haven't. What I do kind of wish they had. I wish he had left it in, was because it sets up how Dracula clearly can only let people, like, they can only, because as we know, Dracula's castle exists on a spiritual realm.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of people might be like, what do you mean? So in the novel, and then we see it in Bram Stoker's Dracula, and we see it in some other film adaptations, where the blue flame appears, and Harker passes through it.
Yeah.
So this happens on St. George's Night, or St. George's Eve, and this is another, like, the devil and spirits and witches are out. And that flame was kind of like, they're like a fairy circle, a fairy night. You passed into the spiritual realm. And so, technically, if people went to Dracula's castle, and, like when that woman came and was like, bring me back my baby, and she came to Dracula's castle, and Harker's trying to get her fucking attention, and she doesn't register anything, it's because, technically, he's not there. He's on a different plane of existence. Oh. So it set up this, like, Dracula, people can only go to Dracula on these times when the barriers were thin.
Got you, that makes sense.
So, whatever reason he took it out, Stoker just felt it wasn't needed. Right. But then it really isn't. It doesn't really, the chapter, the prologue, really doesn't add anything to the story, other than it sets up this, like, well, clearly there were certain times of year that you could access and pass through Dracula's castle. Otherwise, it was always just a one way in, one way out, where Dracula or his brides were heading out and feeding. But when they returned to a ephemeral world. Yeah. So. Anyway,
cool. Well, that's interesting. I love Dracula.
I know,
the movie and the novel, but I actually didn't even know that, so that's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm a complete vampire fucking freak since I was a small child.
Yes. So what he said in Dracula's Guest about this time of year was, according to the belief of millions, evil was abroad when the graves were opened, and the dead came forth and walked. All evil things of the air, of the earth, the air, and water held revel. And what I would like to say is, Bram, why you leaving us fire signs in the dusties?
Well, I can tell you.
Why?
So, okay. Because all roads lead back to Hecate. So, by the time Christianity, as we'll get deeper into, but, like, the church is super afraid of Hecate.
Right.
To the point that the Vatican got her statues locked under cages in the basement. Like, yeah. And she's the one deity that has survived in terms of, like, she got demonized and turned into the evil queen of the night, queen of witches, and you go back and you read the Malleus Maleficarum, you read King James's own witchcraft manual, at least that I can't remember the name of right now. But all these books started, and all these Christian writers started referring to Hecate and kind of lumping in the Hecate Lilith. That's where we get this. Yeah. And but Hecate's dominion was over the heavens, the earth, and the unconquerable, unruly, unfruitful, and fruitful seas. So the air, the earth, the seas.
Okay, that makes more sense.
So, yeah, so it just was, at this point, it was just, now she's been Christianized and bastardized, and so that's where that comes from.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But as a fire sign, I'm still going to be salty about it.
I mean, as a fire sign, I agree.
I'm like, where's R?
Well, that, too. And
we can fly across the moon!
Right, well, and that's, too, because, like, I mean...
The broomstick might be on fire, but we'll be there!
Yes. And, like, as we know, like, the back then, it wasn't just, earth. It was chthonic. It was the underworld. It was the spiritual world here. Then the heavens was the stars, the moon, the sun. Hecate Crateus, Hecate of the sun. And so fire's right there. Yeah. So I'm like, she holds torches. So it was like,
exactly.
So yeah, they could have included that when they bastardized her. They could have included all the elements. But they took, as we know, Christians take everything super literal. So for them, there wasn't like the heavens, the earth. It was just air, heavens, air. Yeah. Oh, water, the sea, water. And then, the earth, well, earth. Like, you know, they just
that's true.
They took out what the actual meaning of all those words actually meant and what they actually vastly covered and just shrunk it down to what they did. Yeah. So I agree. Get some fire in there.
Exactly. We want to burn things.
Yeah. Always.
Always. All right, so moving on.
Yes.
So there is a similar holiday, St. John's Eve, which was the inspiration for Modest Mussorgsky's Night on Bald Mountain.
Yeah.
Yes, we love. The concept of which was a witch's sabbat taking place on St. John's Eve on Bald Mountain. Now, Bald Mountain, also known as Lisa Hora, if I'm pronouncing that right,
apologies if not.
Yes, apologies if not, as always. We try.
We do.
We're not perfect.
No.
So this was a mountain, a mythological place in Slavic folklore, where witches would gather to be spooky and exalt themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, booking my ticket now, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So of course, as we know, anyone who's grown up watching Fantasia will know.
Night on Bald Mountain.
Yes, Night on Bald Mountain, my favorite part.
Yes, same.
Features a big black, almost demonic type of a god.
Yes.
His name is Chernabog, which interestingly enough is a Slavic demon figure whose name literally translated means black god, which I think is really interesting.
Yes.
As you know, the resident etymology freak over here loves it. So we see him waking up on Walpurgisnacht and summoning forth his spirits and his fellow demons, the witches. We see them fly across the sky, which is just such a beautiful sequence.
It is. As a child, like
me too. I just loved it.
I was so obsessed with Night on Bald Mountain.
Oh my gosh.
That was what I love too. It's like, okay, so again, because bitches are Christian, they'll be like, that's the devil, and it's Chernabog. But here's the thing: even as a small child, again, when you're a witch, you're a witch. I don't know, you comprehend
exactly.
shit. You just comprehend
you
shit.
do.
But like, I always was like, when people would be like, if I knew other kids or whatever, I'd be like, oh, that's the devil. Like, I'd be like, well, no, it's not, because he's literally the mountain.
Right.
Like, he's literally the mountain. Like, it's like the mountain, and then he's the top of it.
Exactly.
He's a god of the mountain.
Yes.
He is he's a black god. He's a dark god.
Yes.
He's evil, because they're seeing this in a Christian context.
Right.
And Chernabog also had dominion on, like, I think it was like war and like death, and like, but also it was like mountain. Like, I think he was like, there was like, if I remember, there was like a chthonic earth and heart to him,
which would make sense why he's portrayed as the literal embodiment of the mountain.
Yes.
He is of the earth.
Yes, he's literally the top of it. When he folds his wing, he becomes the mountain again. And I think that a lot of people miss from that is that, like, and I always, again, as even a small child, I registered it that, like, once the sun came up and he folded his wings, he literally was this, like, it wasn't like if you hiked up there, you would, like, suddenly stick your thing in his wing.
Right.
Like, he became the mountain again. This was all taking place in the spirit world. And, like, but, I felt so witchy as a child when I would watch it. Like,
I love it. And, like, and it just really makes you think that, like, you know, this is not the kind of thing that Disney would ever do again. And I'm glad I got to be a child during those times when they did.
Yes, when they were re-releasing Fantasia on VHS. Like, I mean, some of these things,
and then, you know, just like we talked about in the last episode, like, they were releasing stuff like the Black Cauldron, they were releasing the Hunchback of Notre Dame, like, they were delving into dark topics in an age-appropriate way for children, and I really just soaked it up.
I mean, Bedknobs and Broomstick.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally about witchcraft defeating the Nazis.
Exactly.
Like, which, you know, the witches of England are known to have, back in World War II, when all the shit was going on and shit was getting bombed, it was famously like a coven of witches literally came together and would routinely gather as a coven and do spells to keep the Nazis from landing on their shores.
I love that.
So they knew, like, you know, it's like you have to be logical. Like, you have to, like, accept, like, okay, they're probably still gonna bomb. Like, there are things you can or cannot prevent, right? But we can do witchcraft to keep them from invading, from landing. And the thing is like, and tire them out, whatever. And that's the thing that does is what happened is, like, Hitler and the Nazis kind of tired out of attacking England.
Yeah.
Like, they never got to Ireland. Like, and it was talked about covens in Ireland did spells to keep them away. Like, and yes, you can put in, they were like, well, there was, you know, the English Channel and there's all these things. But, like, okay, we invaded the beaches of Normandy from the United States. You know what I mean? Like, Germany
one
had
if by
subs.
land, two if by sea.
Right. Germany had war subs. Like, they could have invaded Britain's shores. Like, they could have. Like, but, and yeah, they bombed the shit out of it. And I mean, fuck. But they never set foot on England's shores. Not by dropping out of the sky or crashing upon the shores. Like, they never invaded. And it's not for a lack of army. It wasn't a lack of fucking subs and tanks and naval ships. Like, it wasn't for a lack of any of that. Like, so I think that, like, you know, I think that Disney was just doing a bunch of kind of have had moments where they've just done kind of off the wall crazier shit in terms of delving into witchcraft. There's always like a toe dip into witchcraft that Disney will take, and it gets weird. It gets weird
in the best way.
Yeah.
So, interestingly enough, the main difference between Walpurgisnacht and between St. John's Eve is, of course, as we know, as we've been just ranting about for 20 minutes now, Walpurgisnacht takes place in spring, whereas St. John's Eve takes place in late June, which, of course, would align it with the summer equinox.
Yes.
And lots of other pagan holidays that we will probably get into in later episodes. But yeah, I think it's really interesting that there is kind of this this parallel between the two holidays, but there are differences as well.
Yes.
So with that being said, I do want to get into the actual history of how Walpurgisnacht came about. So oddly enough, it was actually originally named for a saint, and that is Saint Walpurga. And she was an 8th century. She was just rolling around in the 1700s. No. She was an 8th century Anglo-Saxon abbess, and she was the daughter of the nobleman Richard the Pilgrim, aka Richard of Wessex.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, and she was the sister of two saints, Willibald and Winibald.
Willibald and Winibald.
Yeah, they really liked their W names in that family.
Apparently.
You know, it was just kind of like a Kardashian thing, ahead of its time.
Yeah.
One of those families. Anyways, so Walpurga grew up and she became a missionary to the Frankish Empire. She converted many pagan Germans to Christianity, as people were doing at the time.
Right. Rocking the board for the Lord.
Exactly. So her brother Winibald summoned her as an abbess to his double monastery.
Excuse me.
Which was a monastery where there were both nuns and priests coexisting together. I could make a joke, but I won't.
I mean, most priests are gay, and most abbesses are lesbians.
Right.
In my experience. Just in my experience, to be clear.
Right. So, he summoned her to the monastery where she took charge of the nuns. And after his death in 761, she presided over the entire monastery. So she was its queen.
Nice.
Yeah, go Walpurgis. we love to see it. Love to
Absolutely.
see feminine upward mobility in the 700s. Like, you know what? I'm here for it. Even though she's a Christian and I'm not down with that, I am down with female power.
Absolutely.
So any hoozle.
Fuck the patriarchy.
Exactly. Glad Winnebald's gone.
Yeah. Fuck Winnebald.
Fuck Winnebald. Winnie.
Winnie.
Oh my god, I wonder if he was ever called Winnie in his
Oh my god.
life.
Friar Winnie.
What if
Brother
Fred
Winnie.
Sanderson was named after him?
Oh my god, watch. We're gonna like discover like a behind the scenes making of Hocus Pocus. And I'd be like, where did you get the name Winifred Sanderson from? And they'd be like, from Winnebald.
Bald. Oh my god.
Sage Winnebald.
Night on Winnie Bald Mountain.
Mountain. It all makes sense. It all makes sense.
So anyways, flash forward to 769,
Yes.
February 5th, Walpurga dies.
Okay.
So,
R.I.P.
yeah, R.I.P. Love you, girl. Just kidding.
Not
really.
his door.
Um,
Bitch.
Anywho, so after her death, reports of miracles began to follow the area. Her death procession and like the transfer of her remains into the grave. Obviously, you know, because back then we would see that happening like a few months after the actual death itself. They would lie in state, blah blah.
Right. They would drag their corpse around from
yeah.
one end to like they did with Reagan.
Yeah. So the procession of her death, the transfer of the corpse took place on May 1st.
Okay, Beltane, yeah.
Yeah. So which became her feast day when she was canonized.
Oh, so like Samhain became All Hallows Eve, and then
Exactly.
November 1st, which was also still Samhain Day, became All Saints Day.
Exactly. So the eve of that then got transferred into becoming St. Walpurgisnacht, which is where we get the name from.
Yes.
So shortly after her death, there was a statue erected in her honor. That began to kind of like secrete an oil around like the face region.
Ah, yes.
And
Sweating.
yes, getting all sweaty.
Hot
A
flashes.
sweaty Betty.
The vapors.
Yeah. So the Benedictine nuns would hand out this face oil as a blessing oil. That was thought to have the power to repel witches, which of course, eventually the myth developed that on the eve of Walpurga's feast day, witches would hold a sabbat where their supernatural powers would reach their peak.
Of course.
Right. So that eventually became kind of the mythos behind Walpurgisnight, aka Hexennacht. Yeah, so it's an interesting story on how it happened. I don't really love a lot of the Christian overtones.
No.
Not my jam, but I still love the day.
Well, and here's the thing: is like we know that like Beltane and the days and nights leading up to were big, and May Eve in itself was a night of power of the barriers coming down, leading to Beltane the next day. Like, so we know that like it already had significance.
Yes.
That's I guess my issue with it is just this, and this is why I refer to Saint Walpurga as a bitch, because I am sorry, but like Christians, get off our fucking cauldrons.
Exactly.
Like, ugh.
Oh my god, I thought you were going for another C word that was not cauldron.
Candle.
Anyways, yeah. Candle. Get off.
Taper candle.
Get off our
pillar candle.
Get off our hot candle. This is my candle.
Like, God, just like why? Like, it's just
like
they have they can't have anything of their own.
No.
Just nothing of their own. They have to fucking everything they have literally built on our shit.
Exactly.
Like, and here's the thing, I'm like, okay. People are gonna be like, well, if you're like neo-paganism, like that's not like a traditional thing that like was passed down like from your family or generations. So it's not like they're taking your shit and this is a reconstructive blah blah blah. No, I am a polytheist. I am a pagan. Paganism and polytheistic belief never went away and then like was restructured and reborn in the 40s or whatever.
There's nothing to neo.
No, there's nothing to neo. What is neo is taking old practices and reinterpreting them and redeveloping them and restructuring them for a modern way in a modern society. There are obviously, and again, as a Hecatean witch, I pull my traditions and my practice and how I worship Hecate from actual classical tradition, not from like some spell book someone wrote that I bought at a witchcraft shop and they like, and I'm just following however they are created some Hecatean tradition. No, I literally, as I've said, my invocations, my prayers, my hymnals to Hecate are thousands of years old. But there are things I do and don't do anymore. For example, I still give Hecate offerings of garlic, honey, milk, honey milk, wine, honey wine, fucking fish, fucking honey cakes, fucking cheese, like things that she likes. Like, but you know what I also do not do? I don't sacrifice living creatures to her. I don't sacrifice dogs to her. I will give her a figurine of a wolf or a dog or something to put on her altar. I don't present it as a sacrifice, though, in the same way that Catholics are like, this is the bread and the blood, and the wine is this body and the blood. Like, and this is, no. I'm just like, you got dogs with you. So, like, here's a dog statue for your altar as a gift, like, to symbolize how dogs are connected to you. Like, but, so I'm not, that is restructured. I am not doing that.
Right.
But I am also, things that I can still do that are traditional, in terms of incenses, hymnals, other offerings, other ways of sacrifice. Like, for example, her Dikenon, her feast night every new moon. Either if I can't leave a feast at a crossroads, what I prefer to do is make a donation to either helping the situation in Gaza or to like my local food bank.
Yeah.
Because she's all about feeding the poor. So again, I live in a city, I can't go leave a tray of dinner and drink out at the crossroads or at my entryway of my apartment building. Obviously, that's going to be neo-paganized by me then when I'm making a donation to Northwest Harvest every new moon.
Right.
Like, but it's not new.
No.
It's restructured for modern times, but it's not new. So yes, when we say Christians steal our shit, you are stealing our shit. That is, everything you have is built on things that already belong to a pre-Christian polytheistic society and tradition. So, screw you buttholes.
Exactly.
Get your own shit.
So with that being said, let's move on into the traditions associated with Walpurgisnacht.
Yes.
So in Sweden, it is called Valborg. And they, I mean, oddly enough, like coming right back to Beltane again.
Yes.
So their traditional thing that is associated with this day is that they will do bonfires that blaze across the hills of the country. So there you go. Chechnya, images of witches, unfortunately, historically, were burned.
Yes.
Effigies, like any like witch imagery, they would burn that. So interestingly, in modern times, that translated into like it being a costume festival, and revelers will dress as witches.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so they'll do like pranks. Like it actually kind of reminds me of like in the U.S. how April Fool's Day is.
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of like pranking, like gentle pranking will be going on. Like, you know, like drawing on a car or something.
Right,
you know,
right.
All in good fun.
Stuff that you traditionally have done on Halloween or Devil's Night.
Exactly.
The night before.
Exactly.
Halloween.
People will also hang flowers to ward off evil. They'll leave out bread to appease those spirits who are roaming through the air on Walpurgisnacht.
Yes.
They will also do like some fun picnicking. And there are Walpurgis choral festivals.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which is really, really cool, and I would love to go see that.
I would love to see. I hope that one day we are in a position to like take the show on the road and like
I would
take the show to different like witch festivals and pagan festivals.
Oh my gosh, what if
that's my dream?
What
for
if
the
we were
show.
able to like do like a whole year and we just like traveled around to different locations observing like different witch festivals throughout the wheel of the year?
Oh my god, that would be amazing.
I know.
Goals. Okay, goals.
Yeah,
Things to manifest for the show.
Exactly. So you know, if you want to hit up that subscribery, like
yes, please help us get there.
We need you.
Yeah, we do.
So anyway, the last thing that I want to really bring up was also Anton LaVey's Church of Satan, which was actually founded on Walpurgisnacht in 1966.
Okay, cool. Yes, I do know that.
Yeah.
I don't know any. I've watched many in the documentary, but yes.
So yeah, that was the night when it was founded, and he said that the two major satanic holidays were Walpurgisnacht and Halloween. Halloween, Samhain, however you would like to perceive her.
Yes.
So that was kind of their two like turning points of the year, which I think just reiterates what you were saying about this being like the springtime Samhain.
Yes.
You know, so I love that. Now, of course, to reiterate this part again, I know we touched on this a little bit, but the church definitely specifically chose May 1st to honor and to bury Saint Walpurga in an attempt to Christianize the existing pagan celebration of Beltane, which of course also involved the same type of bonfires that we see in observations of Walpurgisnacht.
Yes.
So yeah, lots of, I mean, I feel like there's really no, there's no part of the wheel of the year that we can't really point to and say, during the Christianization process, here's this link that was taken from the existing pagan holiday and slapped the image of Christ upon it. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Right? And, you know, I was going to say, one last thing I wanted to add on to the Beltane thing really quick. The whole thing with the Wicker Man and the human sacrificing, we don't actually know if that's true, because where that came from, where they were like, oh, there was this Wicker Man stuffed with people and animals, came from the Romans, like, who had invaded England and were writing like this and this was propagandist stuff that they would bring back to Rome to like justify why they had to civilize the savages. which was from pagans to other pagans.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because then that's what Christians then later were like, which was Rome.
Right.
Rome is what solidified Christianity, and that's when your missionaries and shit started going out in mass. And what was that language? Still the same. We had the savages. Well, that's how the pagan Romans, when they went and invaded England, described the Celts of over there, was that the Celts were savages and they were burning humans alive. And you know what? They probably were, but it was probably prisoners. It was probably people taken, which for the time, that's what you did. Usually, like if you got the death sentence, it usually then was carried out as part of ritual sacrifice. It was religious. It wasn't like now where it's just slap them in the electric chair, shoot them up with fucking poisons or whatever. Like it was, you were in prison and usually sometimes were probably fattened up and given a lot of food and treated really well. And then, you were probably sacrificed because you were sentenced to death because you were the enemy. So, and that meant you were going to be sacrificed. So, but we don't know for sure if that's actually true. It could have just been animals that were put in a wicker. We know there were wicker men. We know that happened. These effigies were burned. But the human sacrifice part, it could have just been ancient Roman propaganda to justify the invasion to their own people.
Exactly.
Also to add, so one of the things that I've talked about is, how in some places during the witch hysterias, it was all men, or mostly men that were tried, accused, executed, tortured, or just banished for witchcraft and sorcery. So at this time of year is a prime example of what this was. So there was a village in this town called, Friuli, which is in northern Italy. And this is like a region where German, Italian, and Slavic customs met. Oh, wow. So it was a part of Italy that borders. So there's parts of Italy that get snow, for example, and look like the Swiss Alps. Like in the architecture, looks more like you're in the Alps than, or in some German village than you're in Italy because it's so northern. So in this part of Italy, there were night battles that would happen. And you would have the Malandanti, which were the evil witches. And then you'd have the Benandanti, which were good witches. Now, the evil witches were men and women. So the Malandanti, it wasn't like, it was women versus men, right? No. So the Malandanti, it was men and women who were evil witches. And then you had the Benandanti, who were typically males born with a caul around their neck.
I've heard about this.
Yes. And the caul, which is that part of the embryonic sac or whatever, that kind of was, they never removed it, usually.
Yum.
But, sorry, visuals.
Just say it's a necklace. It's a special necklace that they're all given.
It's a fleshness. It's a flesh neck, whatever. I don't know. The neck flesh.
The neck flesh.
I mean, it is, actually. But born with a caul around their neck. And they were typically males, which is interesting. There were sometimes females. Right. But they were typically men. And they were the Benandanti, and they were witches. They weren't warlocks. They weren't, they were witches, but they were the good witches. And so this was the ritual association of the good walkers. A body of men chosen from those born with the caul, who fell into a trance or deep sleep on certain nights of the year while their souls, sometimes in the form of small animals, so their familiar spirit, they went abroad at night, which is abroad at night, left their body so they could do battle, armed with stalks of fennel. And yes, you're like, fennel, the little bulb, that's the root, baby. The stalk gets fucking tall, okay? And they would, so they armed with stalks of fennel, they would do battle against analogous companies of other male witches for the fate of the season's crops. They also performed cures and other kinds of benevolent magic. So this was a fertility ritual once widespread throughout Central Europe, but by this period perhaps flourishing mainly in marginal regions such as the Friuli and in Lithuania, once a strictly similar institution of benevolent werewolves is recorded from the late 17th century. It suggests Slav or even Ural Altaic influences, which must be left to the judgment of experts in popular religion. But so in this area, during the witch trials in Italy, it was mostly, there were some women, but it was mostly men that were put on trial for witchcraft, specifically because of these night battles in the church. Some were skeptics and didn't believe, just like you had in Salem and anywhere else, where, I mean, that's kind of what brought down the whole Salem situation, was Cotton Mather being like, I think we might have lost our minds. Like, is this actually, witchcraft here? Now, granted, a lot more had to do with the accusation of the governor's wife, but they would also start to get to a point of being like, is this some crazy shit? Right. So, there were people even in Italy who were like, is this some crazy shit? But those in the church who did believe it were like, we don't see a difference between good witches and bad witches. Like, y'all fucking are witches and you're guilty. Right. And there were more banishments and tortures than there were executions. That wasn't because, it was men. It was just because Italy was more... they were more humanistic. Lenient? No, I wouldn't even say lenient, because they weren't lenient. I mean, I guess for the times you could say lenient as the word, but they were definitely just more circumspect. They were more circumspect, I guess is the word I would really use. They didn't let hysteria take hold as much as, because they learned from the Black Death, they learned during the Renaissance and Medici, and what was the name of that friar or monk who like Trivioli or Veroli, something like that. But he like was like a doomsday apocalypse guy, and he really took hold during the Renaissance and the Black Death, and then his shit just got too out of hand about like heretics and stuff, and finally he was put to death. Like, so they kind of learned from that during the Renaissance, and so they were like 200 years later or 100 years later, they were like, you know what, we're not going to go down that road. Like, we're not going to do that.
Wouldn't it be nice if America learned from its history?
Yeah, that would be great.
You know,
looking at you, America.
okay.
Every other country in the Western world has learned from their histories. Eventually, one way or another, you have yet to do so. We have yet to do this.
We're still seeing that Puritan.
God damn it. At least we get good hats out of it.
That's true.
So yeah, it's very interesting that they would do battle, good witches, bad witches, and the bad witches would have sorghum stalks. So sorghum is kind of where you can get it's like a sugar derivative. So sorghum syrup is kind of like a molasses. Okay. So in the South, especially like in the American South, they'll do sorghum sauce, sorghum syrup, and instead of versus molasses.
Yeah.
And they would ride these like broomsticks, and this would take place during the Ember Days, which were you would have during the winter time, and then you'd have during the Fire Days, which were in the springtime, and they would do battle over the crops, and one of the nights would be St. George's, and then you would have Walpurgisnacht, about May Eve, is one of the evenings, one of the nights. So yeah, I just think that that's really cool, that there was just, you know, on this night across the world, things would happen.
Exactly.
One way or another. Yeah, so next, we're going to come back with SpellCraft, where we are going to make some magical candles and show you how.
I'm very excited to do so. Let's get flamey.
Woo! So for this SpellCraft, as we said, we are making our own magic candles, which so excited to do.
Very excited of varying purposes.
Yes, I know it looks like a lot of components.
It does.
And there are many an item here, but the actual process of doing it is really easy. And we're gonna show. Excuse me, I'm all burpy.
Too much tea.
Too much tea. We will show you how to do this and what you need to do and how actually easy this is. So this is going to be a fun time. Van is also going to be learning kind of how to do this for the first time. I learned this method in like the 4th grade. We made them in class.
Oh, nice.
And I couldn't believe how simple it was to make your own candles at home. Now, again, yes, there's a lot of things on the table, but really all you need is either fresh wax, and you can use just like the wax melts that you would get at a any type of store, or you can obviously go to like a craft store and like buy sheets of wax, whatever, to melt. You can also do tea lights. So like this is really simple. These will just pop right out. Sometimes you do have to do a little finagling, but you can generally get them out, and then you would just toss them all into a bowl once you get that done, and we'll show you how that'll be. And then you can, once it melts down, you can pull out the little wax stems, because we're not going to be using those. You can save those for when you want to make some tea lights, which if you would like to do, you can do that as well. And then we have various like jars from like other candles that from the past, just clean them out really well. See, we have some 7-day prayer ones right here. There's an olive jar.
Yeah, I got my little olive jar.
It's
not going to be an olive scented candle though.
No. I have my this is one that was for Papa Legba, that's been burnt through. It has his Feve on it. And so I'm going to be remaking a new special one for him to dedicate to him. So this is really good if you have any like really special candle jars or whatever that had like a really special candle to your deity that you purchased or something. You don't necessarily need to like rebuy it. You can just make your own, and it'll have a lot more semblance and importance. Then of course I just found a jar of like glass votive, so we're just gonna also just do that. Yeah, also you want to make sure that you have just some butcher's twine or butcher string, as it would be called. You just find it in the cooking aisle with the cooking gadgets and stuff. And then a bunch of pencils. You're like, what's that for? Well, once you make them, and we'll show, then you want to balance across while you fill up and the wax hardens, and it'll keep your wick in place. So you want to make sure you have plenty of pencils. They don't need to be unused. They can be, just don't use pens, just because of heat and them being plastic. Just stick to wooden pencils. And obviously don't get the lead in there. Well, it doesn't really matter because it's a candle. And then, yeah, we have a bunch of herbs and stones and crystals.
To sprinkle over the top. We got some incense somewhere.
Yes, we have some Crown of Success. We have some John the Conqueror incense, because you can use powdered incense in them as well. We have resin incense. This is for opening roads right here. And so you can use resin incense for whatever the purpose. And a great way to like get all these things. You're like, oh my God, this is so much stuff. And we have more herbs and stuff over here. But kind of a good, like, I'm not going to say life hack or witch's hack, but I guess you could say that, but I just say just a good way to kind of save money and cut corners is if you go on Amazon and type witch kits or witchcraft kits, various ones pop up at various price points from $25, some all the way up to like 85 or more. But they'll come with all these vials of stuff, like all of these crystals and sacred stones and a ton of herbs, dried herbs, and they're just really good for like replenishing your stock of like crystals and herbs and stuff really quickly, but also like, you know, we go to the cult shops, and how many times do we come across those like amazing, beautiful, handmade by witches candles, and they're gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
And they smell wonderful, and they're beautiful, and they've got gorgeous stones in them, and you can tell time's been put in to bless them, make them. And you're like, oh yes, I want this. And then you're also like, well, I'm gonna have to pay $35 for it.
Exactly.
Well, this is a great way around that, because you can go to places like a dollar store to get votive candles to melt down, food coloring from, you know, the grocery store, food dye, just the same way, just make whatever colors you're looking for or wanting, and, you know, add it to your wax when it's like still hot, pour it in and get it all stirred up in there, and then, you know, it just cuts down on a lot of spending extra money going into these shops and buying individual stones,
Right.
individual pouches of herbs, you know?
Exactly. Especially if you are doing multiple candles with different reasons, you
Yeah.
know?
And like, you know, also, let's face it, we're not all of us, I mean, if you've been practicing the craft for a long time, or even for just at least by within a year, a couple years, you should have some kind of understanding of the properties of most stones, crystals, gems, herbs, plants, etc.
Right.
But, you know, unless you go to school for it or you really study that branch of witchcraft, of magic, you're not gonna have an encyclopedic knowledge, right?
No.
But, you know, with these kits, what's great about them is that they come with these little booklets that talk about all the herbs and stones, crystals, etc. that come with them, and all their magical properties and and medicinal properties, etc. And it's just this big. Like, it's so, one side is herbs, one side is all the stones, and like it's so many, it's not even funny. The range of things, like lotus embryo right here, like hibiscus, like I wouldn't, like just kind of things that you, then obviously like standard things that you would think of, like clover or red rose petals, but things you also wouldn't think of. Bittersweet, like like a lot of times when I'm looking for bittersweet and I go to a cult shop, they don't even carry it a lot of times. So and then golden rhodolites in here, and tiger's eye, like there's a golden obsidian and obsidian, like just I didn't even know there was a golden obsidian. Like, so it's really cool, but it's so handy and takes out all the work of doing, you know, all of this, like pulling out this to look up the meaning of something, or, you know, something like this, or one of the many things over here.
Right.
Like, it takes out all the work of all of these books, and having to look up all these things and hold these big books, and you can just do your crafts at your table and have your little booklet to look up, you know, okay, I want to do a candle to bring this, and you can just look in here and see everything you got, find it. Obviously, we also have our phones, and you can use your phone as well. I will say, though, get Ray Buckland's Advanced Candle Magic. I will say, like, I'm not Wiccan, and Raymond Buckland was definitely, like, was Wiccan, and he does come from, like, a Wiccan framework of definition of candle magic, etc. But this is actually really invaluable, and if you're doing candle magic and making your candles, this is definitely, I don't care, I have had this book since I was like 12 years old. Like, it comes in handy. I definitely recommend it. It's got the hours and days for specific candle magics, and how to two-color candles and all that. Like, it's got everything in there. So yeah, Ray Buckland's Advanced Candle Magic. I definitely say if you're going to have one book on the table, let it be that. But otherwise, just get you these witch kits, and it takes out all of this and puts it in here.
Got your handy little pocketbook.
Yes. So you do if you have, let's say, a votive candle that already has like a candle in it, and you know you're wanting the wax, right? What you can do is just stick them in a pot with warm water on the pot stove. Just fill it up. Use it as your guide, and you're gonna like fill it up. Oh, we'll put it here. You're gonna fill it up to wherever the candle wax and it ends. That's how high you're gonna fill the water up, and just put it on low. Once it starts to get warm, you start seeing the first little spits of steam start to rise. Then you're gonna take it out of the water. You'll take a knife and just cut along. And then you can pop it out, pop your candle out, and at that point you can pull out that little tip, the wick tip. But this is then what you're gonna have. I just have them all in here, easy to scoop back out to melt down with the other white wax when we do that. So it's just really, really simple and easy to do. Make sure you have all of your pots ready to go. Fill about halfway, third to halfway of water. These are going to be for your double broiler, because you don't want to melt your wax directly in the pots. I mean, you can, but you don't want to. It's better to do it in a bowl. You want to make sure you have a ladle so it's easier to get it into your jars along with your funnels. That's going to be really important for a smoother transition. And then make sure you have all of your things sanitized, cleaned out. You can, again, a lot of these are reused candle jars and other jars, pot jars. And then these are bowls that are going to be for the double broiler. So just make sure you have all of that ready to go. more in. So when they're done and they're drying, this is what they look like when they're all getting dry. See, it's super easy. These are rose quartz. And these are our advanced fertility, my good fortune and prosperity. So once it's all done and they're warmed and ready to go, it's really simple. You can just slide your pencil right out from the loop. Then you want to take, if you didn't double knot it, or too bad, you can unknot it. And then you can either leave it all long and like kind of whatever. You can trim it any length you want, but I say get it as close to 2 inches from the 2 to 3 inches from the base of the wick as possible. So take that off. Boop.
I'm having issues because I did double knot mine.
Oh, so go ahead and just snip it. Anyways,
Okay.
Just snip it from here.
Okay.
Because you're gonna want it, yeah, because well, a little lower, because you want it to be only like 2 or 3 inches from the base.
Right here?
Yeah.
These freaking
I know.
scissors, it's terrible.
There we
you
go. So, boop.
Boop. Here's our
So
candles.
there's the finished product,
Mhm.
all cute, all done, all ready to go, blessed as you saw.
Exactly.
So that is SpellCraft, making your own beautiful, wonderful, homemade, charged, empowered magical candles for Walpurgisnacht.
Cheers! And if my candle works, this might be one of my last cheers for a minute.
Here's hoping.
Fun. I love some good candle magic.
No, I know, and like I haven't made candles in like ages, so
I know.
that was a really good time.
You know, I don't know if I've ever made them, but I had a great time. I mean, I'm usually more of a like pay $10 to have it just ready for me kind of gal.
Right. Well, I mean, but now you have seen how easy it is
Exactly.
and how cost effective.
Exactly. So without further ado, let's move on to delicious witch. I'm very excited to feast upon this soup.
So, in honor of Walpurgisnacht or Hexennacht, we are going to be making a traditional Hexensuppe or stew. And you're like, a witch's stew? Yes, it's a witch's stew. Now, does not have any babies in it, or entrails, or actual eye of newts, or anything like that.
We forgot to pick them up from the store.
Yeah, and when we were at the farmer's market, they were all out of the internal limbs of a newborn babe. So,
We were so upset that we could only get vegetables instead.
yeah, but you know, you make do. We're just kidding. So, you will need 3 Yukon Gold potatoes, baby potatoes, and 3 baby red potatoes. You could also do baking potatoes, your regular russets. In that case, I would use 2 to 3 big russets, or you can do a combination, however you like, whatever potatoes you enjoy. Dice them, and peeling is optional. I like the skins. Most of the nutrients, vitamins, all that in these potatoes is in the skins, in the red and the Yukon Gold, so and I just think it's delicious. You're going to do 2 to 3 cloves of garlic, so just 1 big head of garlic. Parsley or cilantro, up to you. I'm a cilantro person, not a parsley person, so yeah, we're all cilantro people in this home. 1 sweet yellow onion, which you're going to dice, chop and dice. Thyme, dried thyme, and dried rosemary. 2 teaspoons of each. Butter, and then vegetable stock or broth or bouillon. I have an allergy to mushrooms, so it's hard for vegetable stock to find that, but there's better than bouillon, which I personally love even better. And their vegetable base does not have mushrooms in it, so I could use it. Otherwise, if you can also use chicken stock if you want. I'm also going to use this sauteed onion base and this roasted garlic base. I just like this because it depths the flavor of the other ingredients and makes it seem like it tastes like it's been slow cooking for like 3 days, 4 days. This is the starch. This is orzo. It actually calls for white beans, but I don't like beans, so I went with orzo instead. And I reserved the starchy water from the orzo. This is about 1.25 cups of orzo. 1 to 2 leeks, depending on the size of the soup. You're going to slice or dice those. I'm going to be dicing them. 2 carrots. Again, peeling or not peeling is up to you. Just make sure they're washed and clean, and then you're going to split them and dice them. And then 1 to 2 parsnips. Again, depending on how big your soup, 1 or 2. And again, however you feel about peeling or not with the skins. Nutrients are in the skin, so I tend to like the skins. But again, however you choose to do it. See, nothing gross. So first and foremost, we need to get our onions and get our garlic cloves going. Can you do me a favor and get me 3 garlic cloves out, please? While she's doing that, we're going to use the whole sweet yellow onion. Make sure your knife is sharp, which, I don't know, apparently mine might not be as sharp as I thought it was. Oh, there we go. So we're going to cut that through. And we want to get all the skin off. Either get a garbage bowl, or in the case of my sink and possibly many others of your sinks, you have a disposal. So just chuck those skins in the sink disposal and be done with it. Now, unfortunately, you can wear goggles, you try whatever, but there really is no way to avoid the crying, sad stink face of cutting onions. So you're going to cut your ends off. And now the easiest way to dice your onion is you're going to go first, cut it through lengthwise. Then you're going to go lengthwise. Slice all the way through, but don't go all the way down through the back. And then dice again. And try to avoid those onions going everywhere. Oh no, just get me the cloves.
Okay.
You don't need to peel them. I can peel them faster.
Okay. Well then, one is already peeled and then here's the other.
Perfect. So now the onions are done, and I take it back. The fine people at Burberry, actually Exotica, who make the Burberry sunglasses, made a pretty good one. I'm not as crying as bad as I did the first half of the onion.
Yay!
So sunglasses, they may actually benefit. Obviously, make sure to properly wash your hands and get all that stuff off before you go touching your face or anything.
Right.
You don't want to burn yourself.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way with a jalapeno one time.
Now, the great news is, oh yeah, my apron has a pocket. Let me get a sip of tea.
Yes.
By now you should know it's not tea, it's champagne. We're always drinking champagne.
Yes.
We're never drinking tea.
No.
We do drink tea, just never on the show.
No.
The tea is the spelling.
Exactly.
Not
the tea comes out of our mouth, not in.
Exactly. Alright. So we got 3 cloves of garlic. That's a baby one. We'll use these guys. Easy way to peel and get the skin off. Now I'm sure so many of you have seen cooking show after cooking show, so I'm sure you all know by now how to do this. But you're going to take your garlic, lay it flat, take the knife, take one side of the knife, mash it. And your skin will peel right off.
Well, your garlic skin, not yours.
Hopefully, unless you hit the knife the wrong way.
Right. Unless you're really allergic to garlic, and then probably don't put it in your soup.
No. We love garlic in this house.
Oh yes, never enough.
Hecate loves garlic. It's one of her favorite offerings, which I would feel like maybe is a reason why in this there's garlic.
Yeah,
maybe
that
a
makes
nod
sense.
would be
Yeah.
a nod to Hecate.
Because he doesn't love garlic.
Right, exactly. Now, if you get like smaller cloves, like we all know, sometimes there's just really smaller cloves, then you'll want to use more than 3 because you do want like ideally bigger cloves. So if you don't have that, or if you only have like a couple, whatever, then just use a few more of the smaller ones. And, you know, maybe like 5 or something. Again, it's the taste in terms of how much garlic, how much soup you're, you know, will determine by how much soup you're making. How many people love garlic flavor, onion flavor, whatever. We're very much a garlic, onion, holy trinity, root vegetable, mirepoix household. So we love all of that, all that stuff. All that shit. You're like, you already said stuff. Why did you then have to try and say all that shit? I'll tell you, because I wanted to say shit, and then I was like, no, I'll say stuff. But then my brain felt completely incomplete, so I had to say all that shit.
Otherwise, it just came out as stuff.
Alright. So we're just gonna mince these or dice these up, however you want to do it. I'll get that little root guy off if you have it. The stubby, take that off.
As one does.
As one does. Just cut your garlic. Now when mincing, it's just a lot easier to do it this way, by slicing it first, and then I used to just kind of mince.
Yeah.
And yeah, in the end it's kind of faster, but this is a more thorough way to actually get to the minced part faster once you've sliced through it.
Yeah.
It's just, you know.
Do you find that the flavor is different depending on how you cut it?
Yes. So if you really want like a high concentration of garlic flavor, you would make a paste out of it. And so what that would be is like doing the mincing process, and then you would sprinkle like sea salt on it, and then you start smearing like this with your knife over and over until it becomes a paste. And that's how you get the most concentrated garlic flavor, followed next by mincing, where you make it with itty bitsy bits. And then if you want to be able to like, you know, do garlic chips, you'd want to have it cut like this. And a thicker piece of garlic, surprisingly enough, is not going to be, when you cook with it especially, and cook it down, it's not going to give as much garlic flavor as if you mince or paste it.
Huh.
So, yeah, and that's really what it's just like the peppers, like, you know, keep taking the veins and the seeds out versus keeping them in, or taking the seeds out but leaving the veins in.
Right.
Will determine your heat levels and everything else.
Yeah, I'm sure it's, you know, that the more times it gets sliced, the more that it's secreting its flavor.
Correct. Okay. So we've got our garlic now minced. We got our onions diced. I'm gonna get those to the side. And wash my hands again. Again, always make sure you're using just like a Dawn antibacterial palm olive. Just make sure it's just an antibacterial. As someone who used to make glasses, I think I've talked about this before, and who wears a lot of jewelry and fine jewelry, Dawn dish soap, palm olive, just any antibacterial, but especially Dawn dish soap, is the most versatile thing for cleaning safely, antibacterially, cleaning your hands, getting any type of lemon, onion, any of that stuff off of you so you don't burn yourself, peppers. It's the best thing to clean your jewelry with, literally hot soapy water, especially if you have precious metals and precious stones, semi-precious stones, they love hot water. So warm water, soap, polish them all up, making glasses, that's how we clean lenses, or deforming the lenses, or cutting them out, doing the final cleaning and polishing. Dawn dish soap, if you go and use like a sonic cleaner at like a lens crafters or any type of place or a jewelry store, they use a sonic cleaner. It's just sound waves and hot soapy water. Just, you know, that's it. So just because it says dish soap doesn't mean it's just for dishes.
Right. Just like
Just like brooms. Okay, so next. Don't worry, you're gonna get to jump in here.
Okay.
I just wanted to get the messy, sticky, burny work out of the way.
Yes, I appreciate that.
So we're gonna get the stove going.
Okay.
Butter knife. Because I want to get these in here, and then once I do that, I'm gonna show you how to disassemble a leek properly. Because it's not as simple as just rinsing and slicing. So we're getting a medium-high heat on this pot. Remember, we don't want to scald anything. We don't want our butter to burn. We are going to do a combination of butter and oil, olive oil. You can do like vegetable oil, but I do kind of want that brassy note of olive oil.
Yeah.
So we're going to do 3 tablespoons of butter. If you're vegan, use vegan butter. I mean, essentially, this is a vegan soup, with the exception of the butter being used. But you don't have to use butter. You can just use oil, or you can use vegan butter, like I said. I like both. I like the flavor of the butter, but the safety and cooking temperature of the oil to make sure the butter doesn't burn. Got our olive oil. Best olive oil is always going to be the dark green bottle. Keep it out directly from the sun. Let's do about 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons. Now, yes, this is going to produce a lot of butter, oil, like, in it, and you're like, oh my god, that's so much like oil and butter. But you gotta remember, before we add like the stock or anything, and all the water, all the other vegetables are also going to go in there, and they need to be able to saute too. So you want to make sure you have plenty of oil and butter. And I just am like very like particular about I can't put anything in until the butter's completely dissolved.
I'm like that too.
Just like, I just feel like something will go wrong if it's not.
I know.
Okay.
I also can't like start my movie candy until the movie has started, like
Correct.
in the theater.
Same. Now, like popcorn, it's fine to start eating once the trailers start.
Yeah.
The actual trailers, not the commercials, but the actual trailers. And then, but the candy cannot be opened until the movie has started.
Exactly. And by then, there's so much anticipation for the candy that, like, you go to a movie with me, I swear, as soon as the beginning credits start to roll, you will just start aggressively opening the wrapper.
This is true. Great. And then really quick, before we get to the leeks, we want to start building our flavors in the pot. So we're going to add our dry thyme, and our dried rosemary. Yeah, I got a brand new thing of dried thyme. Did I need to? No. I have like 3 other ones and they're already the only ones open. But, you know, you never want to like risk it.
No.
So
It wouldn't be the same without.
right, so you just kind of go in and do it.
Exactly. You have to take it time after time.
It's true. So you're going to do about 1.5 teaspoons. So we got our first teaspoon. So put it in the palm. Once you've scooped out the teaspoon, put it in your palm and crush it up to release the oils and so it's not as woody. And just crush it between your fingers, like pinch it and then grind it as you sprinkle it all in. And remember, think about what all of these, the magical properties of all of these herbs, and focus on them and tell them to wake up and start, making that happen. Because as a witch, there's no reason, literally not everything you make can't be prosperous and magical and beneficial to you and everyone else who makes it. So we're going to do another 1/2 teaspoon. Well, we did 1 whole, so now we're going to do 1/2. Again, just cut, pinch, and grind. You can also just get it and rub it between your hands. So that's our thyme in there. Adding protection and healing. Okay. Then we're going to add our dried rosemary. Again, protection, prosperity, love, success, all the good shit. Protection, it's all there. Turn down our heat a little. Now let's start to saute. So we're going to do 2 teaspoons of dried rosemary. Yeah, and just crush it up, putting your intentions in. Just as the onions start to get translucent, that's when you're just going to kind of start reducing your heat down and down. You don't want things to start burning or just getting gross. And add our 2nd teaspoon of the rosemary. Ew.
We're halfway to the Scarborough Fair.
Oh, we are. Okay, so now the leeks. And I like rosemary, so fuck it. I'm not gonna let this go to waste. So I'm gonna throw some of that in there. Waste not, want not, if you like it. Rosemary.
In the pot.
In the pot. Okay. Alright. So before you actually even clean your leek, you're gonna take off the outer leaf.
Okay.
Because that's all woody and shit. And then take that one off too. Okay. Then we want to go ahead and cut off the tops here.
Okay.
You don't need that. You can rinse it and reserve it for stock or whatever, but it's pretty bare. Okay. Then we're gonna go ahead and take off the end guy right there, the nub.
The nubby.
Okay. And then you want to split it down the middle. And then you want to go rinse it because you're gonna have all this dirt in there.
Oh, okay.
You just want to like get it between the leaves. Get it between the leaves. Get between the leaves. Perfect. And then once you've gotten between the leaves, just gonna cut through it.
Okay.
So we'll finish this up and then you can do this.
Alright. They kind of look like celery once they're cut.
Yeah. They're basically a large green onion. In fact, when we lived in that U-District house, we had huge stocks of
Oh, we did, yeah.
leeks that we were growing in the back.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a whole summer just like making everything with leeks.
Yeah, we did. Oh, good summer.
Okay, so we're gonna get these leeks out of the way. Move them over here.
Okay. Okie dokie.
So we're gonna add, as we have our onions and garlic in here, I'm gonna add the better than bouillon sauteed onion base. Again, you don't need to do this. You can just stick with the vegetable stock, just the veggies themselves, or you can do onion powder. I just like to enhance the flavor of the other ingredients. So yeah, it just adds a depthness.
Oh yeah, these are getting me too.
So think about how many cups you're using. So about 11. 1 teaspoon is 1 bouillon cube for 8 ounces for a cup of water. So you're gonna just do the math. I'm gonna say for the sauteed onion base, I'm gonna do 3 teaspoons. Again, you don't have to do this. I'm just being that witch, that extra cooking witch who just wants to do whatever they can to put the flavor wherever. Again, you can also use bouillon cubes. Onion paste you can buy at the grocery store right now, onion powder, whatever you want to do, or again, you don't have to. But why would you not want to? And then we're going to add the garlic base.
Almost got to see some crazy clown makeup from me, but I saved it with some glosses at the last.
Oh, good. So you're now going to add your leeks so they can start sauteing with the onions and garlic. And then you're just going to, again, peel or don't, it's up to you. Just make sure that, oh, I already rinsed.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Everything's already washed. So just, yeah, cut off the butt. And then split it, yeah, and then just split it down the middle into the Now you may be wondering, why are you making her now do everything? Okay. It's because I have longer arms than she does. And so I need to do the constant stirring of the pot.
Just like you always do.
Just like I always do. And that's what a sous chef is for. Okay, so get those in. I'm not going to worry about that second one because I think we got so much parsnip out of that. Again, as I say 1 to 2, just depending on how big your soup is going to be, how many people you're feeding, etc. So you want to season as you go along. So we've already done the herbs. Now you just want to get your fresh cracked ground pepper in there. Just as many turns as the case, basically. And then we're going to get sea salt. This is Himalayan sea salt. Got to take the 2 teaspoons because you're got a lot in here and you're going to be adding more. Give that a toss. Get some cilantro in there. Don't be afraid to use some of the stock. The stock has a lot of flavor. good.
Oh, I know. I love this cilantro.
Again, you want to do it to taste. I do another tablespoon of fresh cilantro in there. Add our vegetable base. Now remember, a teaspoon equals 1 bouillon cube to every 8-ounce cup of water. So we're essentially going to do probably 5 teaspoons. Because we already have the others in there, the other bases, the garlic. Again, you're not really going to do this if you are using like your own like vegetable stock or broth. Again, the reason why I'm doing this is because A, I do actually think the concentrated flavor and like these bouillon pastes just adds a really big slow cooked flavor that like you just don't get with stock or broth alone. So, but in this case, there's no vegetable stock out there without mushroom in it that I can find. So here we go. Oh, this looks so good.
It does.
So with our liquids, this is optional, but I would say if you can do it, do it. 3/4 cup of dry white wine. This is Sauvignon Blanc. Make sure it's a wine that you would want to drink. If you don't want to use this, you can use some other acidic, like 3 or 4 tablespoons of lemon juice, half a cup of lemon juice, or white wine vinegar, or something like that. Oh yeah. Oh, that smells nice. You want to cook the alcohol out before adding the rest of your liquid. Now once you start getting high bubbles on your wine, on the bubbling, then you're going to drop the heat back down. I have a timer. I set a timer for 5-6 minutes. So we're down to 2 minutes. So when I hit the 3-minute mark, I turn the back down to just under medium. All right, next, we're going to reduce our heat to simmer. Then we're going to start adding our liquid. So when I made the orzo earlier, because you don't want to add dry pasta or rice to any soup that you're making. It'll suck it all up, and then it'll be mush. Like, you want to cook any pasta, rice, whatever separately and have it aside. I wanted to keep that starchy water. So there's about 1.25 cups of the starchy orzo water. Again, if you're just going to use white beans, then it doesn't matter. Just put them in. So we have about, with the starch included, about 6.5 cups of water in here. 7 cups. I think 7.
Yeah.
Yes, 7. So it will be total 7 cups of liquid. Again, now bring this up to a boil, but then once it comes to a boil, we're going to reduce it and let it simmer for about 40 minutes. All right, so after about half hour, 40 minutes, you're going to make sure you're stirring occasionally through all of that. We are going to go ahead, not add all of our orzo. We're going to add about, probably like a cup. Maybe not, or a 1/4 cup, whatever. Just get a big spoon. Yeah, you're going to do about probably like a 1/4 cup of the orzo. After I cooked it, I drizzled it with like 2 teaspoons of olive oil just to make sure that the orzo wouldn't stick while it was cooling. So we're going to add just like a big like scoop of your orzo. And then another scoop. So 2 big scoops in total. Get that stirred up. That's out of the way. We have a lot going on here in terms of liquid and things.
Oh, yes.
We'll add 1 more big scoop. You want to reserve some for the side because you want to actually like put it in the bowl before dumping the soup in. So you don't want to use all of your rice or pasta. Again, if you're using white beans traditionally, it doesn't matter because your 1 cup or 1 can of like beans drained would be in here already. Recipes that I found say to like blend the whole soup together, like, and then add it back in and reheat it pureed. I like chunks of vegetable in my soup, so we're only going to do some of it. So I have a, excuse me, a NutriBullet 900 series. Obviously just use a food processor or a regular blender if you have one. I will be using this, and yes, so I've got the biggest cup container, which I don't know, I was gifted this, I'm not sure what size this is, but it's the biggest one that they have. And I'm going to fill it up with the soup up to the max line, and then we're going to let it cool before blending it, because if we don't, it'll blow up.
We don't want that.
No. So just take your ladle, get in there. Now, if you want to do it traditionally and blend the whole thing together, please feel free and puree the whole thing. I don't want to do that, so we're only gonna, it'll have the look like it was pureed all together, but we're gonna have some of those amazing vegetable chunks still in it.
Yes.
Then we're gonna add the rest of our starchy water. This is probably about a cup. I'm not gonna add probably all of it. Well, maybe I will. Yeah. And then I have a sieved spoon, so I'm just gonna sieve out a little more veg to put in here. There we go. So that's just gonna hang out and cool. And then just gonna get, once it's cooled, blend it up, pour it back into the soup, stir it all up. That'll be that.
Right.
All right, so next, once it's cooled down enough, right here, what you've set aside to blend. Again, if you're gonna blend the whole thing, take it off the heat, let it cool a little, and then you can use the best way as an immersion or stick blender, also known as an immersion blender. You can, you want to do all that shit? I don't.
No.
Again, like we said, I want some of it to be rustic and chopped and still chunky. So I've filled up my NutriBullet giant one. Basically, it's just a blender, but it goes upside down. So we're gonna do that. Perfect. All right, she's all nice and blended.
Ooh.
Then you're gonna dump that back into your pot and add it to what has not been blended up.
Did not think it was gonna be so like mustardy.
Yes. And in fact, you could add a little mustard powder or Dijon mustard to kind of brighten it up. Remember, this does have German roots.
True.
In fact, if you want to do me a favor,
Yeah.
go get the mustard powder. You don't want to lose any of that. So we're just gonna swirl, pour a little water, get whatever's left in there. Dump that in. And then we're gonna do mustard powder. Again, just super fine mustard, brown mustard. You would add liquid to this to make a mustard paste or more make like your traditional mustard.
Yeah.
Just gonna sprinkle that in. Want to do a good tablespoon, because we have a lot of soup here. You put that back in the cupboard for me. So now we're gonna get our garnishes ready. So we have one scallion or green onion. Go ahead and just get that top head off, of course. And then you're just gonna slice it through. Cut it through one more time. There we go. Then we'll take our cilantro. Again, we're just gonna take a little chunk off the top. Amanda and I love cilantro.
We do.
So does my partner. So lots of cilantro for garnish.
Oh yes. We are definitely not cilantro so people.
No. That's parsley. Parsley's disgusting. All right. We also got some creme fraiche here. You're gonna take your bowls. You're gonna scoop some of your orzo into the bottom of your bowl. Just so you have that, some that have like a little extra bite to them, a little al dente versus what you have in here, which is gonna be soft at this point. Take your ladle, stir in there, get it all stir up. Let's dish it over. All right, so then you're gonna take your creme fraiche, just get it all stirred up in there. You can also do sour cream, crema, cream cheese. Clean hands always. Just slide a dollop in. Slide a dollop in. All right, then you're gonna take your green onion, just sprinkle it on. All right, then you're gonna take your cilantro, or your coriander, if that's where you call it, where you come from, where you live. And this is what it will look like. Just gorgeous and delicious and hearty and wonderful to dive into. So there you have it, Hexensuppe. This is traditionally served with German sausages, spicy sausages, German cheeses, and roasted root vegetables, beer, cider, wine, whatever, but usually beer and cider. We hope that you will enjoy this and make it for your own Walpurgisnacht celebration.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so good.
Hexensuppe. Enjoy!
Enjoy.
Well, that soup was really fucking good.
So good.
I hope you guys enjoy making it and eating it as much as we did and as much as we will tonight.
Yes.
Woo-hoo.
Yum.
Let's get into Witchy Media review.
Yes, shall we?
It's 1996's The Craft, screenplay by Peter Filardi and Andrew Fleming, and produced by Douglas Wick and directed by Andrew Fleming. It stars Feruza Bulk, Robin Tunney, Nev Campbell, Rachel Shrew, Christine Taylor, Skeet Ulrich, amongst many other amazing young up-and-coming talents at the time. I mean, right off the bat, a full moon, straight off. Let's just get that out of the fucking way. I'm giving it a full moon.
100%.
Like, there is, I don't think that's a fucking question of Witchy Media. I think pretty much everybody feels that if you're a witch, I think there isn't a witch pagan whatever like, who doesn't fucking love the craft. I don't think. Like, I just don't think.
I haven't met one.
No. I mean, yeah, it's fiction. Yes, it is outlandish. It's got very over the top, overly dramatic, overly beyond what could actually happen in terms of witchcraft and stuff. But it's so deeply rooted in authenticity that it fucking believes out of it.
Exactly.
And as we said, we picked it because the night of the invocation of Manon, it's May Eve.
Yeah, and actually, you know, I just looked it up on IMDb because we needed to double check something in our research. And I found that the release date was actually May 3rd. So that creates another tie to this time of year.
Yes. God, I can quote this thing backwards and forwards.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was obsessed. I was obsessed with this film. I was obsessed. I watched it every day before school and after school once it came out on VHS. I went to a school where I had to wear a uniform, so it deeply informed my fashion.
I didn't, but I actually always wanted to.
I
was like, I loved that like Catholic school girl uniform look, you know?
Yeah, uniforms are fun. This was just such a formative film in my life, and I think for almost any witch, I think The Craft, if you are a Gen X, Millennial, Zennial, as in X Zennial, not Z Zennial, or Gen Z Millennial, I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
But if you're that, whatever. I think from like Gen X onward, this is formative. Fucking formative. This movie is magic. The Craft is magic. They get so much. They had a witch on set. Feruza Bulk had purchased the witchcraft shop panpipes and saved it from closing. That was in charge of that for years. And
Girls, watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
Like, she is the one who brought the witch consultant on the set, and the witchcraft was witchcraft. It was steeped in actual magic and spells, and like it just, yeah. I'm just gonna shut up now. I don't know what else I can say about The Craft.
Oh yeah, I mean, The Craft is such a great movie. I actually saw it for the first time as an adult, so I really don't have that like. That sense of like formation to this movie, but I still freaking love it so much. Like, so much of the witchcraft, like you said, is rooted in actual spells, like actual practice things that are so common for many witches. Obviously Feruza Bulk being an actual witch, 100%.
Although to be fair, we'll say alleged witch because she
hasn't confirmed.
She's never confirmed or denied.
Okay, gotcha.
And when she does, it's like she tiptoes around a confirmation or a denial, so you never know either way. Like, so just say allegedly.
Well, allegedly. Wink,
everyone on the set said so.
Right, wink, wink, girl.
Yeah,
we get it.
Wink, wink.
Anyways, yeah, love the movie. I watched it the first time because you found out that I had not seen it.
Oh, that's right.
And,
I thought so.
Right, and at the time, like, everyone was saying that like my style of dress is very Nancy.
Yes. After she invoked the spirit.
Yeah, after she invoked the spirit. Obviously, like, my hair would never be that flat as for before.
No.
But yeah, lots of people were saying that like my style was very Nancy in The Craft, and at the time I was like, okay, like whatever, like no idea what you're talking about. So you sat my ass down and we watched it, and it was magical and amazing, of course. Like, looking back, I'm like, you know what, I see it. Although I still think that I was a little more elegant than Nancy was.
Well, yeah, I mean, Nancy was very hot topic for her time, which nothing against that either. Like, but your style was definitely much more mature. And also older.
Yes.
By like a century and a half.
Right.
But you had, I mean, but that's the thing is once Nancy invoked the spirit and she like started like her hair started getting bigger and shit, she also started dressing more like with the witchy boots and the long dresses, and like the trench and like the long gowns, and her style really did change into something more like classic witch outfit. Like, she literally, especially at the end in the climax, she straight up just looks like a witch. Like, she's got her witchy boots, she's got a longer like black like dress or whatever under her fucking schoolgirl skirt. So the schoolgirl skirt looks like an apron. Then she's got her many rosaries. She's wearing a freaking like lace bodice, and then she got the trench over that. She literally looks like you put a conical hat on her, and you're like, hello goody Downs.
Right, you're like, she's ready to fly across the moon right now.
Yeah, like she did get very like Victorian 17th, 18th century, like kind of aesthetic towards the end there.
Yeah, she did.
So that's why I always say it was like after she invoked the spirit is where you guys met.
For sure.
But you did. You had
I
a
did,
Nancy
I
Downs-ness to you.
I did, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't help that I naturally do have that same shade of hair.
Yes.
And I do have pale skin.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like even as I'm sitting here today, like some people would view me and see Nancy.
Oh,
because
yeah.
we just have certain physical characteristics in common.
Yes,
you know?
yes. There are things that you mirror, yes,
Yes,
in your aesthetics. But yeah, it was definitely not on purpose. You definitely.
No,
I
not
remember
at all.
being like,
Like-
"Oh, did you big fan?" Like you kind of, and then you'd be like, "I have no idea what that." And I was like, "Wow," because like it looked like you would have taken your cues from the craft. Like,
Exactly. No, I look back and I'm like, yeah, it totally did look like that, and I literally had no idea what people were talking
Yeah.
about. But once I did watch the craft, I will say, like, Nancy was my favorite.
Yeah.
Like, I'm such a Nancy. If y'all can tell by just observing me in our videos, like, I'm the Nancy.
I was the Bonnie.
Yeah,
I was
for
definitely
sure,
the Bonnie.
for sure.
I will say what I loved was, you know, being a Leo and an Aries with an Aries moon, having that double fire.
Mhm.
Then like finding and then loving Nev Campbell. Like I was
Yeah.
like I loved Nev Campbell
Nev
back then. I
Campbell's
loved her on Party
great.
of Five, and which was pretty much all she had done. That and Are You Afraid of the Dark? And so when I saw her in the craft, this was after the first. It was either the first or second season of Party of Five, and then the craft was like her first movie. And so being a big fan, I was like, "Yay, she's got a movie!" And then I was like, "Oh my god, it's
It's a
witchcraft!"
witch
And I was
movie,
like, "Oh my
yes.
god!" Trailer blew my mind. And then when I saw it, and Bonnie was a fire.
I
And she
know.
was the South, and I was like, oh my god, and I related to her because
You
like
did.
I was like severely, I am
Yeah.
severely double jointed in my elbows, and so if I stretch my arms out or anything, it looks fucking weird. It looks
Yeah.
like the spread of birds' wings or bats. Like, it's gross. Like I can walk my arms around, but as a result, I always, especially once I got to middle school in
You
sixth
cover
grade,
them.
which is when the craft came out, was the spring of my sixth grade year. I was at that point, I was wearing oversized sweatshirts over my uniform, like coats like covering my arms because I would get made fun of for my elbows, among other things. Like you just wanted to like fade away, but I also like wore like jewelry, like witchy jewelry, and boots. I wore boots, lace up boots, and then I see the craft, and Bonnie is literally covered up because of burns and all this shit, but secretly she's super cute, and I was like super cute and adorable. So like I was like I didn't really ever feel like until I got to high school and I came out of once I came out of the closet and then started like blossoming in that is when I felt like Nancy after the burn or Bonnie after the burns. Before then, yeah,
You're
Bef-
flat.
yeah. Before then, I always was like Bonnie before she got rid of the burns.
And that I kind of feel that way about Nancy as well. Like, because I think that there was really definitely a time for me in middle school when it was just, you know, as a result of like all of the bullying that I went through, like I was just very like introverted. I was very like standoffish. Like I wouldn't really let anyone close to me. Like I definitely had a reputation, but it all really kind of stemmed back from the fact that like I was being hurt at the time and I was protecting myself. And I feel like those early scenes of Nancy, I really see a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then of course, you know, after she invokes and she just becomes
Big haired
powerful
Nancy.
and big haired and big energy,
Yeah.
big Nancy energy. Like that is how I feel today.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, love her to death.
Yeah. You know, but I think that this movie archetyped for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And reflected a
agree.
lot of people and reflected an entire generation of witches.
Mhm.
And still does. And I know that like young witches are discovering it all the time.
Oh,
and
yeah. See it on
love it.
TikTok a
Yeah,
lot,
and
you
they
know?
love it. Like I don't really ever see backlash with the craft.
No.
Like
There isn't any to exist,
no,
really.
because yeah, it's fantastical. Yes, there's those fantastical elements. Yes, it's not 1,000% grounded in reality. Yes, there's all this other shit that goes on, but it's a wonderfully acted film.
Yeah.
Wonderfully storytelling. Again, I do think they should have left the 3 deleted scenes they took out
I
in
agree.
because they actually enriched the story
Oh,
and make more
100%.
sense. Just like when you see the scene when like they're all in Sarah's room doing spell work
Mm-hmm.
and Sarah is doing the lose the hair spell by tying it into Rochelle's hair,
Yeah.
and then you see Bonnie getting having Nancy do this like magic work on her back,
Yeah.
right? Then once the burns wipe away, they're like, "Oh, you look so beautiful." They're sitting out in the courtyard, and Bonnie is like, "You did it," and she's like, "No, I didn't do it." She's like, "Well, you helped." She's like, "Yeah, you did." And I remember always being like, "Well, no, that was Nancy. Nancy was doing that. Like, what the fuck?" And then I see the deleted scenes on my DVD,
Right.
and I see that the night before the surgery, Sarah goes to the hospital and does an entire spell work on Bonnie
Right.
to get rid of her burns and make sure that it all works the night before. Like, and then you're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, like I feel like there being a reference to that in a scene that they did keep, like they should have just kept that because we're all confused.
Yeah,
You know?
well, it's like after Sarah invokes the spirit and fights back, she does the glamour of the snakes and shit on Nancy, and Nancy freaks the fuck out, and then it all goes away, and then she goes, "Relax, it's only magic. Now he's pathetic." And I got the reference for the pathetic because she
Right,
said
she
it
just
in the
said it,
shower.
yeah.
But I was always forever being like, she goes, "Relax, it's only magic," and the way she says it, you can tell as the viewer, it's
Right.
referencing something said earlier, but it never is there. And then you're watching the deleted scenes, And there's a whole scene that happens where Nancy does a glamour and makes it seem like she stabbed Sarah in the gut with her athame, but then it disappears because it was just a glamour. And then she goes, relax, it was only magic. Ooh, would have tied it all together. So, like, I don't know. Yeah.
You know, it was probably all cut because of time constraints.
For sure.
But it really would have helped.
Yes.
Like, just call it a mini-series and put the 3 extra scenes in.
Yes.
Like Nancy.
So, there you have it. 2 obvious full moons for a super moon for the craft.
Like, if we put our full moons together,
with our full moons combined,
we can make a butt cheek. Or I guess it's a full butt, actually.
Full butt.
It's not just a cheek.
So, yeah. Let us know what you think in the comments, what you love about the craft or don't like about the craft.
Right.
What do you do for Walpurgisnight or Hexennight? Do you celebrate? Are you going to be making, or did you make the Hexensuppe, the delicious Hexensuppe? Let us know. If you like what you saw, obviously, like, comment, subscribe, and share.
All the things.
All the things.
Send it into the air along with the rest.
Yes.
Non-hags.
And then next episode.
So make us work twice as hard, Margaret.
Next episode, we will be finally going into the preview of the Antichrist from Pagan Invasion. Obviously, we didn't do it this time because that's not joy.
No, that's really not.
And we're going to get into other such topics. So, yeah. Tee-hee-hee. Until then, remember, witches, broomsticks, not just for cleaning.